Wheels are part of the bike that do take quite a lot of abuse when riding, so they should be checked regularly. This is how to do that. So when checking my wheels, the first thing I'll do is check the condition of the rim. So I'll start off by the valve, just so I know where I start and where I finish. I'm just going to spin the wheel around and take a look at the condition of the rim. I've actually got carbon FSA rims on this bike today, so you're not really going to bend these or ding them, but I still will look around, check for any big gouges or scratches and rocks coming up. With alloy rims, I'll definitely check for dings. So if you hit a rock really hard, goes through the tyre, you can actually bend that rim in a little bit. If you've got disc brakes, it's probably not the end of the world. However, it can start playing around with your tyre, especially if you're tubeless. You don't want that bead to start popping off. So with a really bad ding on an alloy rim, I might actually try and bend it back using a set of mole grips or adjustable spanner. It's not going to look the prettiest, but you do want it as straight as possible just to keep hold of that tyre bead as well as possible. So I've checked the rim both sides, and there's a few little stone marks on there, but they're in absolutely fine condition, so that's not a problem. The next thing I'll do is just spin the wheel. You can do this in a wheel jig or in your bike, it's fine, just to check how straight and how true this wheel is. So for now, I'll leave it in the bike, and I'm gonna put my finger up by that rim there and give it a spin. So when I'm spinning the wheel, I'm looking for that rim moving side to side or up and down. Ideally, it should be completely true and not move up and down. Again, this is a carbon fibre rim, so they're not really going to get too bent. They can get out of true a little bit, and that comes down to spoke tension. With alloy rims, they definitely can get bent a lot more. And again, if it's moving around too much, that is when you need to start taking a look at the spoke tension and trying to true that wheel back to get it as straight as possible. So if your wheel is out of true, that's probably going to tell you that the spoke tensions are off, but this is something I would definitely check anyway. You can use a fancy spoke tensionometer like this. So you put it against the spoke and it will tell you how tight it is by how much it bends. Or you could use the old school method and just squeeze them together with your fingers. So I'll go around, get those two spokes that are closest like that, and they really shouldn't move any more than maybe 1 or 2 millimeters. You will notice this if you go around the wheel. These are all pretty tight, but if you get to 1, you can really squeeze them in, then there's definitely something going on. And you need to take a look at that wheel and start thinking about playing around down here to try and tighten that spoke up. So the carbon wheels on Scott's cross-country bike are in really good condition. The spoke tension is spot on. This is one of my old wheels and it's not in very good condition at all. I don't know what I've been doing on this one. As you can see from this gauge, it's moving side to side massively. So I've got this wheel in the jig so I can take a closer look at it. So you can see there's a lot of movement side to side in this wheel, so it's definitely time to check the spokes. And these all feel pretty good, except I get to here and there's one really loose spoke. So if you do have any loose spokes, it's something you need to address as soon as possible. Yes, you might get away with it for one ride or even a broken spoke for a little bit of time. The problem is this is obviously now a really weak spot of the wheel. So if you maybe land a big jump slightly wrong and you happen to land in this exact spot, there is a chance this wheel could fold. So definitely take some time now, or I should take some time to put some tension onto this spoke, try and get this wheel as straight as possible, but more importantly than that, especially with disc wheels, is just to get some tension on that so it's not weak. We have done a video on how to true your wheel, but to briefly explain now, this spoke is loose on the left-hand side, obviously means there's no tension, so my rim actually bends out the other way. So if I put a bit more tension on that, that's going to pull the rim back into line, hopefully. It's really loose, so it does need a couple of turns. Again, get that tight and I'll go around and keep checking the rest of the spokes. So whilst this wheel is still quite buckled, if I spent a bit more time on it with a spoke key, I might be able to get it a little bit straighter, but it doesn't make a massive difference, to be honest, because I've got a disc brake. Obviously I don't need that rim brake. You know, with V-brakes or old cantilevers, you want that rim to be as straight as possible so it's not hitting your brakes all the time. So it doesn't matter quite so much with discs. However, if it's really bent, just think about what that's doing to your tyre. If your tyre's moving around an awful lot when you're riding, it can mean that you've got less grip. So if it's too bent, it's time to think about maybe replacing that rim. Okay, so that's your rim and spokes dealt with. The last thing to check is the hub. So really, the first thing to check with that is the bearings. I will always make sure the axle is tight first before you do anything here, so nice and firm. And now I'm going to grab the tyre and I'm actually going to try and push it sort of sideways on the bike, so holding onto the frame, push it front to back, and there shouldn't be any movement in there. If there's any movement in there, it either means your axle's loose, but hopefully it's not, so you just tighten that. Your bearings might be worn or your cup and cone might need some adjustment. And I can actually feel a tiny bit of movement in this one. So I'm going to take this wheel off and check that hub. Okay, so with the wheel out, I'm just going to hold on to this section at the end and just give that a spin. That should be nice and smooth and not make any noise. If it feels rough at all or it's really grinding, then now is the time to service this hub. So that either means cleaning out and re-lubing those bearings or just replacing them if they're sealed bearings. In this case, that feels absolutely fine. So it just means that this hub is slightly loose. And what I can do is undo this grub screw and just tighten that collar in a little bit, wind a little bit more preload onto the bearings, and that's going to tighten it up and stop that side to side movement. Tighten it back up. So I've tightened that collar on the hub just to put a little bit more preload on the bearings. They're still spinning really nice and smooth and freely, but it's taken that movement out of the wheel, so that's perfect. Another really easy way to check your bearings without even taking the wheels out of the bike is just to spin the wheel and hold the frame or the fork down by the axle, and if you can feel any vibration or any roughness in there, that's probably going to tell you those bearings, do need a bit of work, maybe replacing or just servicing. So there you go, there's a few simple tricks to check your wheels, and it's something that I'll do pretty regularly, especially after a heavy ride. I'll definitely check the spoke tension at least. If you click on this GmbN logo here, you'll subscribe and you'll see a video every day of the year. Click up there for how to straighten your wheels, or if you click down that bottom corner, that'll take you through to how to set up tubeless tyres. Give us a thumbs up if you found this maintenance video useful.